see if
All right.
Okay, we're real.
Rob, are you doing?
I should have plugged in my guitar this morning to do a little intro.
Who the hell's going to, because it ain't Bill and I.
No.
Yeah, sure.
I know.
Next one.
It's gonna be really lame, y'all, about an electric guitar.
We'll have to post it in the post. Fix it in post.
Wait a second. Somebody's got some guitars hanging in his wall right behind him there. So, unless those are just for show.
They're real.
They're real. They're awesome, huh?
Yeah, it's fun.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody, to IoT Coffee Talk. And it looks like this is a AWS reInvent week, doesn't it?
And
Yeah, I just came back from DC.
Oh, okay. What's up in DC?
That's where reInvent is.
no, it's not.
Except that it's in Vegas, where all giant events happen.
Usually it's in DC.
AWS reInvent?
No, it's been in Vegas.
DC doesn't even have a place that big.
I went like some odd 5 years straight, and it was in DC.
Well, this year it's in Vegas. That seemed like a massive. In fact, I think Adam Solipsky said there was like 50,000 people there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, it was huge. I don't know what the venue was for his keynote, but it looked pretty massive. I don't know. It was like the Raiders Stadium or something.
Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of guys. I was at Smart Cities Connect.
Oh,
Yeah, that's in DC. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So how was that? What's the latest with smart cities?
The latest with Smart Cities is let's stop calling it Smart Cities.
What are we calling it?
Connected communities.
This is what happens when your big thing doesn't work out and you have to change the name to pivot.
The same thing that happened when we changed from machine to IoT, isn't it?
And then we stopped saying IoT because it didn't work out either.
That's right.
It's inevitable, right? It's the acronyms and the names and all of this stuff. I'm like, we should just stop it.
Yeah.
You know, the smart grid, the hell is so smart about it?
Right. But connected communities sounds good. I mean, who would be against that? I mean,
Yeah.
Right. It's
for the people.
apple pie, who
It
doesn't
does
like
seem
pie?
apple pie. We've got connected communities. Come on over. We're barbecuing. It's going to be great.
Come
Everybody
to the cookout.
Exactly. Come on
Bring
over.
your apple pie and Breyer's vanilla. Come on.
That's
There you
right.
go.
It's
You're
a
all
4th of
set.
July thing, Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, there's an actual. I couldn't get them to change the name, but there's an actual smart city standard that is being proposed by NIST.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll be out for public review in 2 weeks. They're going to run it for like 6 weeks. And I'm one of the contributing members for that.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Rob, it's even worse. I talked to Benson Chan yesterday for an hour and a half about it too. So, between them all, God only knows what's going to come out of that.
That's kind of weird, though, thinking a smart city standard. A smart city is a giant complex made up of a bazillion other things.
Connected community.
Yeah, connected community. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you standardize that? What does that mean? What is that a standard of what?
You know what it really is it's more around everything from layer 1 to layer 7. So
Like best practices kind of
it's more about interoperability. How do you get the systems to talk to each other? How do you leverage the data that's coming out of those systems?
right.
We just had EMQ on, right?
Yeah.
Message bus is hugely important.
Right.
A broker is hugely important if you're going to have these systems talking to each other.
That's part of it. If you were some kind of old time Microsoft guy, you would say, you just need to implement BizTalk to facilitate interoperability.
Rob, you're on the verge of getting canceled.
Yeah. No, luckily I'm pre-canceled. I'm already good. I'm living in a bunker in New Zealand. I was already canceled, but I got the cancel insurance policy in case you get
okay.
canceled.
That's important.
So it is. It's good. I highly recommend everybody involved in connected communities to get that insurance policy. I was given the idea by Sarah Silverman on her TV ad. And so I was like, oh yeah, I better get that insurance policy. I'll be canceled for sure.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. No, so I mean, I think it's important. I think the conversation is important. Let's take the name away. But when, we've talked about this several times on Coffee Talk, is that interoperability is lacking for all intents and purposes when we look at any of these things. And it does go all the way back to RTUs. RTUs are still a thing. It's not going to go away.
Just like Modbus and some of the they're not going to go away.
Yeah. No, I like the idea of best practices so that everyone can sort of snap to what's worked. And then if you're developing it, then you know what to kind of snap your solution to get better adoption. I think that kind of makes sense, especially in a lot of these different scenarios, to have best practices and examples, and then, some connected community for helping you get there. Yeah, I guess when you say standards, I'm thinking like IEEE or 3GPP, and I think
it's funny because IEEE, IPSO, ISO, all of them are doing bits and pieces of this.
Sure,
but you do need something like NIST that actually says we've implemented it, and here are the things that we did from sensor here to enterprise application, whether it be in the data center, in the cloud, wherever it is. And the flight of the packets happens in this fashion.
Right. But Bill, you said implement. I didn't think your committees were implementing anything except providing suggestions for policy.
But the suggestions come from real case studies.
Oh, okay. So it's not. So you guys aren't implementing anything. It's coming from implementations that have occurred.
Right. So like cities that I work with, we will go through and do these things. And I can say, for example, this is how it happened in Coral Gables. This is how it happened in Sunnyvale. This is how it happened in Newark. This is how, so there's a group of us that have actually done it, actually do it, right? We're not postulating.
I thought you just talked about this stuff. You actually get your hands dirty? You do stuff?
Yeah, I think, yes.
Whoa.
Actually do it.
Wow.
Don't just talk about it, be about it.
Be about it.
Be about it. I like that.
That's right. Yeah. There are a lot of talkers out there for sure.
And for those,
they haven't really done anything.
For those,
interoperability has been a thing we've talked about forever.
Yes.
With IoT and everything and digital twins and stuff like that. And it's always been a problem. And people go, well, you need to stick to the standards. Well, the problem is all these weird things, they actually are all standards. They just aren't ubiquitous standards.
Pick your standard. But the issue is this is a paradox, a technology paradox that, nobody wants to be commoditized. And everyone wants to differentiate and maybe get a little bit of lock-in. And so this idea of like, let's all sort of, snap to a standard. It's hard, especially as technology is evolving quickly, for people to, to do that. I remember in the semiconductor world, we were working with everyone on AI tool chains. And everyone's got all these, like a dozen different tool chains for AI, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, can we just kind of get it a little model portability here or whatever? And everyone's like, whoa. Hey, I don't want to dumb down my tool chain to make it interoperable with someone else's dumb tool chain because mine's a smart tool chain, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just like this thing, like whether it's connected communities or AI or whatever, when you get a bunch of tech together, nobody wants to kind of dumb down their tech to snap to a standard, which inevitably is behind whatever tech they have or whatever they're building, right? So this is like a tension that will last for the next 1,000 years, I think.
Yeah.
I think 100%. Yep.
Yeah. We've decided
nature
that we're going to snap to the Internet Explorer 6 standard versus the Netscape.
Baseline. That's the baseline.
IE6 is what we locked into. It doesn't work with anything else.
There you go.
I figured you were just going to say Windows NT and just leave it at that.
Oh.
Wait. There's got to be a lot of love for Windows NT. You know,
as much as there is for CE.
No, but Windows NT, Dave Cutler and company, all our guys from digital who came over and changed the world. Don't forget, folks, the second largest cloud on the planet is run on the NT kernel. Don't ever forget that Azure is NT under the covers. It's 100% built on the kernel. So
that's why I thought that's where you were going.
Yeah, so it is interoperable. It can run your Linux workloads.
Does everything.
I mean, but Pete's right. It's really interesting when you start to look at the standards, right? I mean, because we've said this several times. You can have a standard and you go, yes, I'm compliant. We leverage this standard, but how did you implement it?
That's true.
And open source and open standards are somewhat oxymorons, right? Because any software developer that says, "Yeah, it's all open source," is not one of two things. Either they're not looking to monetize themselves and their solutions, or they have built on top of that open source and created a level of proprietary stuff.
A little veneer of proprietary goo that they can monetize.
You have to because
you need to get paid. People need to get paid. So either you're the customer and you want it for free, or you're the technology implementer and you need to monetize. I mean, someone's got.
Back to how we started this talk here. AWS reInvent, a whole bunch of people in Vegas talking about this giant cloud that they built 100% on the backs of open source technologies, and they've monetized the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of their proprietary pieces that they put in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you always hear about lots of open source folks who actually contribute and build the stuff, and I don't want to say they hate AWS, but they feel like they got screwed over or something. And Andy Jassy is like, you said we could use it. It's open source, And they're like, yeah, but we didn't realize that we'd not get paid, and you guys are making trillions.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the large debate around, because I'm huge on open source. I'm also huge on building on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Well, people need to get paid though, because they also let me look at Red Hat and Canonical and all these folks. It's one thing to kind of get something up and running, and then it's to kind of support it and all these other things. People need to there needs to be incentive for people to support things and make things work. And, open source is good and it's a great foundation. But at the end of the day, like if you're a connected community and you need to take a dependency on somebody, they need to get paid. They're not going to do it for free. So
yeah, that's for sure.
It's there.
Yeah, I feel like I spent my whole life being this SQL Server guy. And then when I left Microsoft and went to Hitachi, and I met all these other people who were like, who uses that stuff? And I'm like, what? I thought everybody used SQL Server. And they're like, nobody uses that. They use Postgres, or they use MySQL or Maria.
NoSQL.
Yeah. And I remember I remember the culture shock for me, actually. In fact, that was a culture shock, just going from clearly 100% almost proprietary world, which I think people use the word proprietary in a derogatory sense for some reason, to this world where it's like 100% of everything we're doing and building on is on open source stuff, just like everybody else has been doing for the last decade in Silicon Valley. And I remember struggling, when we were building Lumada at Hitachi. I was just like, and I go, well, but what about supportability? Because you guys, one of the things people say when they decide to adopt a particular open source, whatever, database, message queue, whatever, they always say, well, it's got to have a big community around it, a vibrant, active community, AKA I need support,
And I don't want to pay for it.
And I don't want to pay for it because we don't want it to turn out like the whole OpenSSL debacle where you found out it was one guy supporting OpenSSL part-time for the entire planet that all took a dependency on that stuff. That was a no bueno scenario for open source.
There's a balance there. Speaking of reinvent, should we? I feel like Leonard's probably. I think he's listening in, and maybe
No, he dropped off.
He dropped off. Okay.
Yeah.
But any thoughts on reInvent this week and all of the Amazon Q is coming and sorts of exciting AI, it was slathered on pretty thick, the AI. And I thought there was some really nice sharp elbows to Microsoft too in the keynote, yeah. But that was pretty nice.
Oh, yeah?
Entertaining. Yeah. Well, he was talking about basically you need to work with a company that focuses on safety and security and provides choice. And, the events of the past 10 days kind of, show that blah, blah, blah. And it was he was, and they showed some screenshots and they were, he was, he didn't say the word Microsoft, but might as well.
Yeah.
Listen, absolutely. that's what that damn show and the keynote's all about. Because even if you look back the last couple of years when I did go, every time they get up there and talk about their crap, it's controversial. It's, they're allowed to.
A little rah-rah. But it was interesting positioning of their, the AI, where AWS is coming from on AI versus, the other folks.
Well, listen, it's true though. If you look at what, the last 10 days, there's a lot of people that are going to have to make a decision on what direction they go. And that we're talking about big companies making decisions. So
yeah, that's true. Taking a dependency on OpenAI is going to be, it's not a no-brainer anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a CTO and you're going down the road with, that company and you got to kind of think about where you're going with this.
Well, it's almost like, we have a multi-cloud world now. No major company takes a dependency on one cloud anymore. It's always multi-cloud. And I think probably you'll have multi-AI, a little Anthropic in here, a little OpenAI, a little this, a little that.
So Pete, interoperability. How are you going to do that, right?
You're going to keep
developers busy for a long time. I'm going to use my
layer.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to use my GitHub Copilot to fix that. Make these things work together. That's my prompt.
Let's go to Lithuania.
Copilot needs Copilot.
Oh my gosh!
But there's it's interesting because it's almost like there's a semi middleware business to be had there. Sure. When you think about how are you going to use multiple companies and their platforms as it relates to that, and then how do you what is it? Rob, I'm going to go back. Are we going for least cost routing? Are we going for best coverage or lowest price? So what do we do in this? And when we do that around AI, you do a multiple platforms.
But but what problem are you trying to solve? Is
your client's problem? Your client's problem.
Well, it is, but I still, I don't know, man. I had such conversations around AI because now every conference has an AI track.
Yeah.
And I'm still, we have our AI. And I'm like, oh, okay, so talk to me about that. What is it doing when it's merely a component to an end solution? So then what problem are you solving with this magical AI?
Sure.
Better than the AI. Let's talk about your machine learning algorithms and how much storage and compute those things take.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Pete, did you ever know at Microsoft, did you know a guy named Ron Zahavi?
Yeah, I knew Ron. Yeah. Kind of standards and stuff.
Yeah, Mr. Standards. Yeah, because he kind of works with the OMG guys, Yeah. And so, I knew him from back then. And then I've been plugged in with him. We're actually going to put on a conference next summer in Vegas called Transform. I've never been to a conference called Transform before. But anyway, it's...
Is that your marketing team that came up with that idea?
I don't know.
Transform. I would call it TRANZFORM. Transform.
It looks like we're going to be kind of co-hosted or inside... what is it? Infocom's, I don't know, whoever else's conference that's got about 30,000. Yeah. But it's funny talking, because I was on a call early this morning, I think he's in Boston or something. And these people.
Maryland, I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so, it's like a digital transformation event. And of course, it's all, everybody's talking about AI this and AI that and stuff like that. And it's,
well, everyone needs an AI strategy. It doesn't mean you need to necessarily use AI, but you need at least to have a strategy about where it could be applicable. And then, like I said, I think people are going to be, hedging their bets on what, especially if it's mission critical. Like if you were going back to connected communities, if you have some sort of safety security system that's using edge AI vision and things like that, you're obviously doing hopefully a lot of edge AI, and you're not taking a dependency on a Anthropic or a OpenAI at all, hopefully.
Yeah.
But for all the other stuff that you're doing and number crunching, you probably want to be able to kind of swap things around and have some flexibility, just like I can use Azure Arc or any of these kind of Kubernetes orchestration platforms to manage multi-cloud solutions. I'm going to want to manage multi-AI solutions as well somehow, so that I'm not locked in.
I think you've got a great idea for a new startup.
Yeah, I agree with that.
AI orchestration. Orchestration.ai when they go reserve that.
Oh my God, it's AI. It's AI workflow to the rescue.
Yeah, I think you should start building that middleware thing right now.
It's the glue. Well, this is the dirty work. This is the glue that anyone can build something and make it and show a demo, but then to commercialize it, right? That's the last 5% of the work that takes 90% of the effort, right?
And while you may not be able to put your finger on the exact problem you're solving with that kind of thing, but damn well coming down the road, there's going to be a lot of that need. There's going to be those issues that big clients are going to need, right? Because they're going to have to defend their logic as to why they went with this group versus this other group. And is the information that, as accurate as the sales guy sold it to you as?
Although AWS did a good job, I think, in landing that choice message. Like you can use, there's AWS models, there's the NVIDIA DGX stuff, there's Anthropic. Like they had everything but OpenAI as an option, which is like, okay, well, if I go with AWS, I can kind of futz around with a few different possible ways of solving at least the big AI stuff. I noticed it was like, kind of conspicuously absent any kind of IoT edge stuff in the keynote, which is this just happens to be the temperature of the industry right now. It's like, let's talk about big H200 30,000 clusters of yada yada yada, and like last year it was like, oh, let's talk about the tiny edge and the so we've gone all the way from like the $5 MCU to the $30,000 per chip H200 or Grace Hopper. So so that's fantastic. So.
Well, we're back to IoT though. Is that why we're here? Okay. The scheduling and the sessions around IoT and IoT core are pretty intense this week. So hopefully my clients and all the other people that went there to learn more about what's coming down the pipe and not just what's in the marketplace will be outlined for everybody. So,
well, I mean, the one thing I appreciate about AWS is they started doing the same thing, right? I mean, Microsoft did a digital twin type thing that I don't know where the hell it went. I think it just vaporized. But AWS did Twin Maker. And I remember laughing so hard when I saw that. I mean, if you have like maybe one room with one conveyor belt, then it might work for you. But then they pivoted and said, we're not going to do that. That's not our thing. So they go out and they build their ecosystem of partners that actually do this. So you do have choice,
right?
In terms of those things. And I don't know. I do appreciate them being able to pivot and shift for the behemoth that they are.
They just didn't know what they were doing. And so when you build crap, you go, oh, what we meant to do was we're going to have the community and our partners actually do this. I remember, Microsoft was super late to the party with digital twins, and the V1 of that thing was just crap. It didn't have anything in common with, because I was doing that at Hitachi and GE was doing it. And a lot of people who actually knew what they were talking about were doing it. And what Microsoft had didn't look anything like that at all. No. Kind of the V2 was a little better. What I hate, it's not that I hate, we have these consortiums and stuff like that. So back to OMG, they've got Industrial Internet Consortium and then created the Digital Twin Consortium. And wow, a tie-in here. So I worked with Richard Solly, who he just passed away. And so he founded and he ran OMG forever. But I worked with him and Bill Rue from GE and a bunch of folks to create the Digital Twin Consortium way back when, and then trying to get companies to sign up and be a part of that thing. But what I saw happen, what you see happen sometimes in consortiums is some big giant player, Microsoft, takes over. And basically they rammed Azure Digital Twin kind of down their throat of everybody else and said, this is what it is. And I was just like, that is not the point of that consortium at all. But that's kind of how it played out.
That's when I left.
Yeah. Yeah, because I forgot, somebody posted something or commented on something I said or whatever, and he was talking about the, I don't know, sock puppet of consortium, where they're just, we're pretending that we are, taking viewpoints from all over the place. But the reality is we're just going to let one big player ram through their view, and then we'll say, yeah, that's what we want. And that's what happened with the DTC. It's basically just a front for Microsoft Digital Twins.
I at first I felt good about it, and then I felt even better when we started talking about the security maturity model for digital twins. But then every single part of that was Microsoft, and I was like, I'm sorry, for those reasons I'm out.
Right. Yeah. You did your best impersonation.
Politics,
Yeah, and I'm like, I just couldn't do it. I mean, most of these consortiums that are like that, I'm like, I
have to admit, I always felt weird about the object management group, because the tagline, was "We set the standard." I'm like, who the hell are you guys?
Yeah.
Like, we just invented this company that gets a bunch of big companies to give us money to put logos on a website. And then we have meetings once a quarter. And then we just say, we're setting the standard for XML or whatever, And I'm like, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit.
That's right.
So Bill, in your NIST program, aren't there some big people swinging for the fences in those groups also that have a little bit more self-serving approaches?
Not so much. They've been very, very good. I mean, I've been working with them since 2014, and that was the fear, was that you were going to have a lot of the big boys come in. But on various groups, there's AWS players. I didn't see anyone really from Microsoft per se, but AWS just kind of sits there and they're like, we'll offer, if you ask us for something, we'll offer it, but we're just here to help. We're just here to help, and it's real collaborative.
Yeah.
I mean, primarily because they don't accept donations. So it's not like you can pay to play.
Right.
You get brought in, and it's an investment of your time.
Right.
And because as my company was growing, we were looking at it as, well, we're doing work with cities. We're going to work with NIST. I can tie these things together because I don't have a marketing budget. So I'm going to use real stuff to put out there and get, the things that I'm doing over here. I'm saying, this is what worked. This is what didn't work. Right. And it goes into the best practice.
I asked Benson that exact same question yesterday, because obviously, they spend a lot of time in smart communities as well, just going, okay, well, you're doing this and you're giving back to our world of smart communities and NIST and where we're headed with all this. And he goes, yeah, I am giving back. This is part of my give back to the world of which we're making money in, but committed to. So I was pretty impressed with what he said yesterday too.
I think there's probably best practices on governance models for these types of organizations. So I think we've all been I was on the executive committee of the Java community process way back when.
Oh, I remember that.
I was like the small company guy on that. This is pre-Microsoft, and we had like Nokia on there, and of course, and all these folks. And but it was a good governance model. It was designed so that everyone had even Sun. It was like a somewhat level playing field for, now of course you always had the Nokias and the Suns, loading up with all these kind of proposals and stuff. And, somebody has to go to market and somebody has to have a marketing budget. So there's always that. But the governance models, can work so that everyone is a little more of a level playing field at the kind of action level. I was involved in Matter as well when I was at Microsoft, and we were kind of an outsider there. Microsoft's never really taken an official position on Matter. But AWS was there, and Samsung was there, and everyone was, it was NXP. It was pretty chill. I mean, it was actually a pretty productive thing. Now, obviously, the big dogs there are the ones that are going to, make the kits and sell the stuff. So they're going to have influence. But it was a pretty.
But Pete, do you think that was based on because of Tobin's response? From an association standpoint and his involvement and the way he handled all this, especially with the Zigbee alliance experience he had
for Matter. You're talking about?
Yeah.
No, I think from the Microsoft perspective on Matter, we just couldn't really figure out where where Microsoft would play in that space. What was the deliverable
from a product standpoint?
What's the deliverable? Like I could never
home automation standards.
So I kind of sat there. I'm like, this all sounds good, but there's nothing for us much to do about it.
Right.
I did get pinged every few months from sales folks saying, "What are we doing about Matter?" I'm like, not much.
Who's using
Tell me what matter sensors do we have in our marketplace?
Well, matter doesn't matter as far as I've seen.
As soon as Stacey Higginbotham realized that it didn't matter anymore, it's dead.
Over. She retired. She retired.
She was like the last person to have any hype about Matter, and then she realized, wow, it just didn't matter. For those reasons,
too many puns. I think that's the issue they had. They had too many puns.
That's so cool, though, that you brought up the Java community process. I was involved in that back in the 90s, creating Java server pages. And
it was a pretty well-run group. Sun did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah. And basically, we drove it to look a lot like active server pages, like the classic active server pages, from the 90s. But then some Cold Fusion people were also involved, and they were trying to force these Cold Fusion tags to be part of Java server pages. Anyway, for a while, it looked just like ASP, to be honest with you. And then, so it's ASP plus Cold Fusion. There you have it.
Good.
What happens when you have a lot of people from different places saying,
that's right. Everybody's got their agenda. They got to work together.
Right. How many people are still building websites with Cold Fusion? The funny thing is the world, just like smart cities, like Smitty's buildings, the built world, it is the world of the old. It just is. There are very few new things. Most of the things around you have been there for 50 years or 70 years or whatever. And when you think of the web or web technologies or anything like that, or anything almost, what you see mostly out there on the internet is the old. Most of the websites I go to still today, if I just go to all kinds of websites, most of them kind of have that Windows 95 look and feel to them. They aren't using any advanced technology at all. They're kind of built like they were built in 1995, and they were probably still running Cold Fusion or, Perl or something like that.
Well, there is a cultural difference here between the speed of our tech world, right, which is we're recompiling and rebuilding every night, and everything else in the world that doesn't work that way. And, how do you sort of this is where the challenge is probably in connected communities. Or I was talking about metal benders the other day, like these automotive industry, even the telco, like they work at a different pace, and so now it's like tech is kind of washing over them like this wave, and they have to figure out how to make it work in their world that works at a totally different pace and cultural thing. That's a kind of another one of those kind of paradoxes that we're going to be working with.
You're so right. And that metal bending world gets even slower when you're trying to bend stainless steel to build a Cybertruck.
Yes, the Cybertruck
that dodges flaming arrows.
It's harder to make that thing and more expensive to make it because the metal is so much harder. It doesn't bend like aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really surprised at how much Elon was telling Joe Rogan about the manufacturing process. I mean, how hard it is. So
it is hard. He's right. It's hard as hell to do manufacturing and build the car at scale and make it affordable. Make it affordable. I mean, and so something like the Cybertruck, where they decide to use extreme materials to make it, it inherently makes it more expensive. It's harder to build.
But that's not Cybertruck's not a scale business. I mean, that's they're going to sell out the few that they make for an egregious price, and everyone who drives one, you kind of know what kind of that person's like. Be like, okay,
he's the same person that bought the original.
Yeah, it's like, remember the Hummer that came out? Everyone who drove a Hummer, you're like, okay, I kind of know who's driving that.
That's right.
Yeah, it's fine. If you want to be that person, if you want to be a Cybertruck person, then God bless, just whatever.
Is there an accessory package for the Cybertruck to have your gun rack in the back like a normal pickup would have, right?
I don't know. What's the accessory for Cybertruck? Who knows?
I don't know. It's like, I can't see my gun back there, or I can't put my flag back there in the back window like I usually have.
I'm sure it has flag mounts for sure.
Flag mounts and turrets.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Can you imagine? But Rob, I'm going to circle back to something you just said about, old technology and things that we have to deal with, because it's amazing how many clients we talk to that are so focused on greenfield and not brownfield, and how much their concept of, okay, well, I'm going to only sell new things to new people, and their sales cycle gets extended, and it's hard for them to get to that point. So we tell them, if you're not putting together some kind of existing strategy with your product offering on brownfield and retrofitting stuff in the IoT space, you're screwed. It's just not going to happen.
You can't win if you can't do brownfield.
Well, I guess 100% of the equipment that's out there today is brownfield. So
exactly, exactly.
I tell people to rip out their donut maker and put in the new Azure IoT donut maker or whatever they were talking about tonight. Might take a while.
Take a while. Well, I mean, just think back to smart cities. Like, we'll wait till 2050 and we'll have these futuristic smart cities. But when we're there, 95% of the buildings in those futuristic smart cities were probably built in 1920.
Yeah.
And people live in them,
Exactly.
Yeah, people want to keep those buildings, but there's obviously a balance there as you're rolling out, new things, but retrofitting and snapping in the brownfield stuff into some sort of system that can be monitored is, super valuable. So
yeah, you're right.
Especially with the products and the sensors and the devices that are available now that can be easily part of the retrofit strategy.
Well, I was talking to someone. I was in Japan, and we were talking about heavy industry and some of the robotics there and stuff. And, when you build one of those giant industrial robots like a KUKA or whatever, you don't really redesign that thing very often. It's like you do it, and it's like there for like many, many years. So what they're doing now is they're taking the existing board, which is running NXP, whatever, IMX6 or something, and then they're adding on like an NVIDIA Jetson or something to it to give it more AI capabilities to the existing unit. So they're not redesigning it from scratch. They're just adding on another piece to the existing one. And so that's kind of interesting sort of brownfield at the device level, saying, I'm going to take this equipment that I know works, and I'll add this, additional module to it to give it new capabilities, but I won't redesign the whole thing from scratch.
Maybe that's how ChatGPT is for humans. It's just adding on to a brownfield solution that we already have deployed called the person.
Yeah. Although for some people, it might be good to just do the greenfield. I don't know,
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Are you looking at the gray-haired people on this call? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, no. Of course not.
You guys obviously haven't discovered Just for Men, have you?
No. It's too late for that. I have the spray can.
Here in the can. And
actually, it was funny. I saw on LinkedIn, there's a big trend on LinkedIn for people to create avatars of themselves, these cartoon avatars.
Yeah.
whatever. And, I see friends of mine doing it, and inevitably all their avatars don't have any gray hair. And I'm like, hey,
amazingly. Wow.
Like, how did that happen? Like, seriously, you got to own it. You got to embrace it.
Absolutely. Oh my God. That's crazy stuff.
Yes.
Craziness.
I still can't.
Who needs Botox when you can create a cartoon
avatar of yourself, right?
Yeah. We're just going to live in that world. Yeah.
There you go.
Second life.
God, this conversation is now definitely turned into this direction.
Maybe we should shut this thing down.
Getting there.
Absolutely.
Hey, is it too early to talk about CES?
You have 1 minute to talk about CES.
Wow.
Are you going?
Yeah, yes, we are going.
You're going to have lots of meetings in hotel rooms?
No, I'm going to stay on the show. I have 3 clients with booths, so I'm going to be close to the board this year, and not do the suites and do all that. But it's I'm interested in seeing where the IoT AI stuff goes this year. The fitness people to the smart, the cars, the automotive area. I'm just interested to see where they go with the sensor technology.
Yeah.
Automotive was big last year at CES.
It's a huge automotive show. Show. Every year seems to be more. I'd be interested in seeing where the kind of Gen AI or the on-device AI is happening.
I agree.
I mean, AI vision, got it. Peace. But there's all this like, we're going to do, Gen AI on edge. I'm like, okay, who's doing that exactly for what reason? So if any of that shows up at CES, I'd be interested. But
yeah, and I think also the avoidance of pricing. Like I don't know how to price this thing out. If I'm adding this to my stuff, how much do I charge for this? And I'm very interested in seeing that, because we can come up with the greatest and coolest thing, but if it doesn't sell, who gives a shit?
Sure. Yeah. But also you got the consumer market and the commercial market. So for me, I'm more commercial market focused. So if there's value in it and it's solving a real business problem, you can figure out how much to charge for it. But in the consumer market, you got all these other weird things going on.
Yeah, and it's going to be. And another thing that a couple of people that were talking about with me was, if Eureka Park has a lot of AI related stuff, then the hype scale is way up.
They will. What do you bet? 90% of Eureka Park is AI stuff.
God, Rob, I hope not. I hope you're wrong.
It will be.
It's like this again. Another year.
They're all trying to raise money, and they've got the word that the VCs need to hear AI in your pitch, or you're dead.
Oh yeah.
We're going back to transformation. Where did all that money? Where did all that money go?
Interested in the vehicles and the autonomy and the infrastructure. So there's a lot of talk around generative AI and its use in the automotive industry, right?
Yeah.
Then it's because I'm like, all of these different ways of vehicles talking is one thing, but it's the AI piece of it that's really of interest. So who's doing what in the car? Who's doing what on the infrastructure? And how do these things work together?
But listen, it's one thing for us to build a 3, 4, 5 year sales model approach in the automotive, right? So you put something into a car today, it's going to be 3, 4 years out before it's sold and on the street.
Yeah.
What is AI going to be like in 4 years? I mean, can you put something into a design today and expect it to be sellable 4 years from now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what OTA is for.
There you go.
Yes. There you go.
There you go. All right. I apologize. I have to drop and do a meeting on this same computer.
Oh my God. Rob, where's your 3 others?
I know.
Where's your AI PC? That's what you need.
Where's your AI phone?
If you had an AI PC, this wouldn't be an issue. I mean, that's,
right. So thanks everybody for coming to IoT Coffee Talk. And I don't know what we talked about, but we talked about something interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the headlines.
Connected communities. Connected communities.
Put Cybertruck in there. It's good search engine optimization. Yeah,
exactly, because we're all about link bait for when we talk about that, and Cybertruck will do that.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
IoTCoffeeTalk.com, and then wherever you get your podcasts. And we are out.
We'll see you next week.
Adios.